Hey everybody, Joe McNamara, Marketing Director for the Risk and Response team for TaskUs. I'm sitting here with our Senior Director of Risk and Response, Surekha Nagpal. And today we're going to be talking about today's challenges in financial compliance, as well as some of the trends that we're going to be looking at into the future when it comes to some of the challenges and areas that we should be focused on. But before we get there, I want to take a second to, again, introduce my colleague, Surekha. Surekha, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you've been working on, what you're focused on, and really what brought you here to this conversation today.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be here with you. It's always wonderful. Just to give a little bit background about myself, I have about 20 years of work experience. I have worked across financial crime compliance space, in the operations area, project management, business transformation, quality. So I've done a plethora of roles across, across various streams. And I think I've finally found my calling in the financial crime compliance space. It's a niche area. I'm still learning, and it's an area that we constantly learn and evolve in, especially with so much online activities happening. It's the area to be in, and I truly enjoy what I do every day.
Well, awesome. So a couple things. Number one, 20 years, congratulations, right? In those 20 years, I'm assuming that you've seen plenty, you've experienced everything across or kind of running the gamut. When we're looking at, some of the trends or some of the challenges that we anticipate going into 2023 from a financial crime compliance perspective, what factors in particular are driving some of the increased costs that we're seeing related to compliance?
I think great question, Joe. I think pretty much every industry and every type of business that we see around has some type of compliance that they have to adhere to on a regular basis. The unprecedented digital boom that I just talked about as well, that we've experienced has been a true catalyst to customers who are relying on it, but on the other hand, also for the bad actors who are seeking to exploit it. This has actually created multiple input and output points for businesses to manage, which leads to a huge increase in the compliance cost. Moreover, these companies are also getting slammed with a lot more regulations, which in turn further increases the compliance cost for the businesses in operation.
Well said. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I think one of the areas that I want to explore with you is kind of around what you mentioned with the industry and how it's continuously evolving and how we're continuously seeing new trends, typologies, both from the good side and from the bad actors. And so when we think about some of the innovations that are happening in our space, the new age service providers, the neobanks, the buy now, pay laters, crypto, all of those different types of new service offerings, how are we navigating, or what should we be looking for to help navigate the increasingly complex regulatory landscape in this space?
Yeah, I think, traditional financial institutions like banks, they had years, to build large anti-money laundering and know your customer frameworks. These frameworks helped them decode regulations and understand their applicability. And as you rightly said, the new age neobanks, the buy now, pay later, the cryptocurrencies, they unfortunately do not have that luxury. Since they've got set up recently, they are still in their nascent stages. What these non-core financial institutions need to do, they primarily need to look for a partner who can help them level the playing field for them and can also help them come up the learning curve by converting regulations into opportunities. A true partner can really help them solve some of the challenges that they're facing currently. And I think it's going to be a huge boon for them.
I mean, I could not agree more, right? And when I think about the partnership and the value that the right partner can bring to that situation, one of the top, value add or kind of top level value that you can see with a partnership like that is definitely around, bandwidth and, how do you essentially, when you look at, service providers in this space, backlogs are unfortunately, a part of every service provider's bandwidth strain, right? So, from your perspective, how are organizations supposed to stay ahead of that curve and help reduce the number of friction points, along that customer onboarding process, the KYC, identity verification, and so forth?
So, I think backlogs and remediation programs have really heightened in the past few years, and they have slowed down growth, which has also led to firms losing customers to competition. Customers don't like long onboarding and due diligence processes. They want everything right now. They want all their problems sorted right now at this very moment. Hence, there's a huge demand for KYC, KYB, and transaction monitoring processes to be far more streamlined and user-friendly. In fact, there's also a huge need to look at technology to detect new fraud types and also look at eliminating the false positives that we see at a low and minimal cost. These solutions, I think, can go a long way in clearing backlogs on one end and also enabling a much better and fulfilling customer experience for the customers out there, for all of us.
I agree 100%. And that actually is a really nice segue into the next question, which is really around, we've covered essentially costs. We've covered, the newcomers in the space, and what it means to have, a great partner side by side with you to help you grow, and help you reduce some of the backlogs and bandwidth strain. And then I just heard, the technology piece. So there's kind of a couple different areas that we're focusing on in 2023, but if you had to pick three, what are the three most important areas to focus on for financial service providers to help them stay competitive in this growing and ever competitive space?
The top things that come to my mind really are, so firstly, I would say the use of AI machine learning, risk analytics, and intelligent authentication methods to gain a deeper understanding of suspicious activity, derive some kind of patterns and locate unusual transactions. So the AI machine learning, firstly, is the most important thing to adopt and acknowledge that there is a large need to follow it. And a hybrid model of humans plus technology innovations is the way forward to tackle the regulatory issues that the buyers are facing today. Secondly, and I've talked about it when we were talking about backlogs, that there is a huge demand and it's very critical to take care of customer experience. Customer experience is very key to customer acquisition, especially for the digital innovators, people like cryptocurrencies, e-commerce platforms, fintechs, all of them. For all of them, the users can easily move to a competing app with very little friction. Hence, it's important to work on customer experience and try the level best to retain the customers. Thirdly, it is very important to stay agile. It's very important to stay nimble and figure out the evolving trends and how quickly the firm can adopt to the changing market scenarios. Also, getting into the right partnerships. Leveraging an ecosystem of partners is crucial to driving strategic differentiation and business impact. You potentially can't do everything on your own. So it's very critical to look at partnerships, engage with the right partners, and drive business impact for yourself and for your clients.
Absolutely, and that last point is great, right? So I wholeheartedly agree. You can't go this alone. And for the service providers out there that for one reason or another feel, I really don't need help right now. We've got this. We've got a couple issues kind of in the background, but for the most part, we're doing great. The ship is still sailing. We're on the right track. But, when we're looking at just overall trends, and again, kind of the theme of this conversation, what should you look for in a financial compliance advisory engagement? Like, is there a particular, flag or, set of I guess, let's call them flags where, you're starting to see some small issues creep into your program, or you're starting to see, just some additional friction points that weren't there either when you were smaller or, for whatever reason, there was a change that creates this additional friction. At what point, and if I'm going to land this question, at what point does it make sense to really look at, engaging with an outside partner that can kind of come in and help work with you side by side to help right this ship as well as set you up for success in the future?
I think it's a great question, Joe. I think, as you rightly mentioned, a lot of companies may shirk away from, going this route. They might feel they have all the capabilities in-house and they feel they're well equipped to do everything on their own. But I would think there is still no harm exploring what's out there in the market and figuring out what potentially you could get, at what price, and what kind of features you're getting. So to specifically answer your question, I think there is a need to look for comprehensive solutions and services to help manage the evolving scope of regulatory complexities. So the engagement that the firm should look at should really ensure repeatable and high quality processes, reliable and consistent controls, improved customer experience with streamlined digital interactions, and to top it all, enhanced governance and transparency. So when you feel that you need to combine governance, analytics, advisory services, and continuous reporting capabilities, you can't potentially do all of it in-house. And that's the right time to look for a partner out there whom you can work with. And it's a good idea to find a trusted partner who can help you manage the risks while you can focus on growing your business. So that's my take on this, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to clarify. So, you kind of have 4 different scenarios, analytics, process, your model. It doesn't take all 4 of those happening simultaneously for you to raise your hand and say, hey, we need help. It's one of those things where, you should be proactive about it and make sure that, again, you've built in enough time for your organization to truly vet the right partner and make sure that, this relationship is beneficial, 1, to your organization, but 2, to your organization's growth, right? It's one thing to hire somebody to come in and just do the work, but I think there's an added level of value that comes with, a true relationship or partnership where, your vendor or your partner is truly working to help you make things better, not simply to remediate. While that's good work, it doesn't necessarily solve for the long term. Which again, I think, as we think about it, and certainly what we're seeing is there's a much larger role to play by technology in this space, including, just how it's becoming more of an increasingly important pillar in the compliance transformation journey. I know we're starting to see semblances of that. I know some of the larger traditional FIs have definitely kind of jumped on that train. We're seeing it from a regulatory stance, with the verbiage that they're using. Technology is here and it's here to stay. So, from your perspective, where does the implementation make the most sense for service organizations to begin this process?
So I would say, while the need for technology, it really stays at the forefront of robust operations, decoding the right solution that you need to use can be a real challenge. There's a constant demand for solutions that are calibrated to the buyer's operating environment. For service organizations, especially who are beginning with this process afresh and are very new in this journey, they should look at simple and easy to adopt solutions which have a minimum risk exposure, because that's the kind of solution which will give them much more success. This kind of a solution will help them manage change management. It'll also solve for any kind of adoption issues, teething issues that the organization is dealing with, and will lead to faster streamlining of processes. So smaller gains, that kind of technology fixes can help them. And then they could look at larger transformational projects, which really bring about a whole lot of change for the organization as well. But they need to start small, is what I would say.
I completely agree, right? And it's one of those things where you kind of have to have your ducks in order, your tech stack in order before you try and take on, much larger projects. At least from my perspective, that's definitely what I see. Now, I really appreciate the time that you spent this morning, talking about just some of these trends and areas of focus. I do have one last question, and it's very TaskUs related. When we look at the work that Risk and Response is doing on behalf of TaskUs, specifically, what we've been recognized for with the recent Everest FCC Operations Service Providers Report, which is a mouthful. What does that say about the work that TaskUs is doing in this space? And, what does it say about, the teams as well as the people behind the scenes that are truly, moving mountains for our clients?
Thanks, Joe, for asking that question, actually. In fact, and I'd love to brag about, what our report specifically talks about TaskUs. It's an honor to be able to talk about this particular point here. So in the Everest FCC Operations Service Providers Report, TaskUs basically differentiates itself from the other 27 providers in a few key ways. So there were 27 providers who were evaluated, and our main differentiation points really were that we cater to the unique demand from the digital and neobanks, fintechs, e-commerce marketplaces, buy now, pay later, and cryptocurrency. So we specifically cater to these specific new banks, and we understand their challenges very well. Secondly, the reference buyers have actually highlighted that the cultural fit and the customer engagement or the employee engagement that we drive is also one of our important strengths. Thirdly, we've cultivated a strong skill set in the compliance services space, primarily on the backing of the historical experience that we've got in providing customer service facilities to the financial crime companies. The fourth point is that we have been appreciated highly for our speed, agility, and scalability. So those were our primary 4 differentiators for TaskUs in the Everest FCC report. This recognition really, for us, is a true testimony to the value that we are delivering to our clients. And with our robust CX-led solutioning and domain expertise, we are well positioned really to tap into the expansion of the compliance risk management demand globally. So that's how I would sum it up.
I still think you're being too modest and too humble there, but at the end of the day, I think it certainly fits the thematic scheme of TaskUs as an organization. We're smart, we're easy to work with. We really put the client first, and we're targeted in our approach, right? And when you think about again, the overall challenges that we're seeing in this space, and you think about the organization as a whole. Is there any final thought or final point that you would want to address kind of going into 2023 when it comes to, our involvement in this space?
So, Joe, I would say there are a couple of things that we at TaskUs are trying to do in 2022 and also continue to do in 2023. So we're going to continue to look at a hybrid model of human plus technology, because I think that's the hybrid model that's most successful. We need to use technology, but we need to supplement it with human expertise, because that's how we will grow, and that's how we will also evolve our machine learning tools and make them better every day. We need to look at building more domain expertise into the organization. We're looking at getting more CAM certified people, doing aggressive training programs for them, building the overall capability within our operations team so that they can handle much more complex tasks and really scale up support for the various clients that we're servicing. Third, fraud is a growing area of concern for our clients. There's a huge challenge that they're facing on chargebacks, disputes, refund abuse, you name it. So there's a whole gamut of things that our clients are looking at helping, and we are sort of building our capabilities and looking at how we can help and support our clients really in 2023.
I would argue we'll continue to kind of bring that TaskUs flavor and vibe to the marketplace, right? Getting back to, one of the key focuses as an organization is definitely around, how do we continue to support and service our clients to our utmost ability, and how do we do it, to borrow the coin phrase, in a ridiculous fashion. Right. So, I'm super excited to see, what our team continues to do, like you mentioned, at the end of 2022 and certainly into 2023. I feel very confident and at ease that we've got, folks like you, as well as, some of the other folks on our team at the helm, and really looking forward to seeing what we can do as a team. So, Surekha, again, thank you for your time this morning. Your insight into, what we're looking at from an overall trend perspective as we march towards the end of 2022 and into 2023. The compliance programs and environment from a regulatory perspective is something that we'll continuously have our eye on. It'll probably be something that we'll continuously cover and follow. But, in the meantime, thank you again, and we look forward to following your work.
Thank you, Joe. It was a pleasure, and look forward to working with you in 2023 as well and delivering great value.